Hey, what is going on, Frag fam? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here, and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So for today's video, we're gonna look at some winter fragrances, in particular, powerful winter fragrances. In other words, they are strong enough to cut through some intense cold weather. By the way, before anybody says anything, I know I live in Central Florida, but I was not born and raised here. I was born in Iowa. I've lived in Connecticut. I've lived in Ohio. I lived in Kentucky. I know what real winter weather is, okay? So now that we got that out of the way, we got winter fragrances. These are fragrances that are typically going to be warmer in stature, maybe spicy, they may be woody, could be leathery, could be heavy on the resins, heavy on the incense, fragrances that carry a little bit of weight to them, and you do want them to kind of be able to push through that cold temperature, and all of these fragrances, in my opinion, do accomplish that. And when I say powerful, I mean they have some push off the skin. They may also have some longevity. I understand if you do not get the same longevity that maybe I do or other people do out of some of these fragrances, that's understandable, but just keep it to yourself. Focus on the stuff that you do get longevity out of. Do not come in my comments complaining about, this fragrance doesn't last on me, and I talked about 9 other ones and you didn't say anything about them or offer an alternative. I'm just gonna remove the comment because I'm sick of seeing that. Anyway, now that that is out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into the video. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, we're gonna kick it off with one of my new favorites in my collection from Algabra Parfums. This is Jamaican Tobacco. Algabra Jamaican Tobacco. Now, I did do a full review on this, but this fragrance is basically a spicy, ambery, warm, slightly woody tobacco fragrance. I do find it has similarities to Mancera's red tobacco. So if you like red tobacco, you could almost say this is, an offshoot of that sort of. It does have differences, but just in terms of the scent style, I find it to be the same. And this one here, I get some fruity characteristics off the top. This collection of spices that have like cinnamon-like properties and maybe even a little bit of saffron properties. The tobacco in this is very, very smooth, clean, and leafy. A touch of smoky notes in there, a little bit of woodiness, and just the right amount of sweetness to not make it too sweet. I think this fragrance has all the makings to make a great winter fragrance option if you want to go for a spicy tobacco vibe. For me personally, it's got the longevity, it's got the push off the skin. It's not necessarily a room filler, but it has just enough to still cut through some nice cold weather. So that's why we got it here, and as I stated before, this is one of my new favorites in my collection. So once again, from Algabra Parfums, this is Jamaican Tobacco. All right, we're gonna keep it in that spicy tobacco realm, and this one's coming from Tom Ford, and it is Tobacco Vanille. Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. This is actually my scent of the day today, and special story about this fragrance because it is the first time I've talked about it on the channel. Yes, I just got this. This was similar to Oud Wood, which I've told the story before, how that fragrance was the one that kind of opened my mind to the vast world of perfumery outside of what I already knew, because I got that before I started to become a collector. This was kind of the second one, because when I bought Oud Wood, I got like 5 sample bottles of this, which is plenty, by the way. So this is one I should have had a long time ago. I don't know why it took so long to get, but whatever, I got it now. But this one here has always been, when I learned about seasonality and fragrances, definitely a winter staple in my opinion. It's just one of those fragrances that really captures the essence of what a good winter fragrance is. It's spicy, it's warm, it is sweet, also has some tobacco. I find this tobacco to be a little bit more dirty, so to speak, than what you might find in something like Jamaican tobacco, dried fruits, and the booziness that this has. Also that slight chocolatey vibe. I love this scent. I think it's a classic for a reason. Now, I understand some people say they don't get good performance out of this. If you don't get it, then you just don't get it. Wear fragrances that do. That's just not the case for me. Anytime I wore this from my sample bottles, it was on my skin all day. I've had this on all day today, and I could still pick it up easily on my skin. And going outside of the performance aspect, the smell alone, I think, is a great winter staple for a reason. And I think I forgot to point it out, but this is also much sweeter in general than Jamaican tobacco is, because of the play on vanilla, as the name implies. Much more of a vanillic feel to this fragrance. Awesome stuff. Once again, from Tom Ford, this is Tobacco Vanille. All right, next one's gonna be coming from Frederic Malle, and this is Portrait of a Lady. Frederic Malle, Portrait of a Lady. Now, I'll be completely honest, from a scent profile standpoint, I find this to be more of a fall and maybe early spring scent profile, mainly because of its heavy use of florals. Obviously, this is a rose scent if you're not familiar, but the fragrance is so freaking powerful that it'll cut through some winter cold. No problem. It does have the spicy element, a very strong clove-like spice in this. It's quite dry and very woody. A lot of cedar wood and sandalwood kind of woodiness to this. Patchouli as well. Rose is kind of a green, slightly jammy rose. But I absolutely love this stuff, but it's just such a powerful fragrance. But all of that being said, I think rose, depending on how it is presented, is a fragrance note that actually can work in any temperature environment. It just depends on what it's paired with, the type of rose. And again, the rose element alone doesn't really make me think winter, but everything that supports it does, and just how powerful this is off my skin. That's why I say this is a powerful winter fragrance, because it can just work in winter usage. So once again, from Frederic Malle, this is Portrait of a Lady. All right, guys, next one's gonna be coming from Amouage, and this is Interlude Man. Amouage, Interlude Man. Now, Interlude Man is a DNA I actually don't mind wearing when it is warm. But in terms of what the fragrance is, in my opinion, it is also a quintessential winter time fragrance. Why? Because everything about it is dark and heavy and weighted. We're talking heavily smoky, heavily incensey, leathery, woody. Nothing bright and light about it. This is a heavy fragrance through and through. I love the smell of this stuff. Not gonna be for everyone, but one thing is for sure, if you think about what is gonna have powerful characteristics in heavy cold weather, dense cold air, stuff like this will always cut through it. I mean, every characteristic I just listed about this fragrance is typically what you hear of in cold weather fragrances. The smokiness, the woodiness, sometimes incense. All that being said, winter staple as far as I'm concerned from the house of Amouage. But you know what? Amouage has got a lot of fragrances that can work on this list, which reminds me, I meant to mention in the intro, I'm probably going to do a part 2 to this because I got a lot of fragrances that could work for this subject matter. Anyway, once again, from Amouage, this is Interlude Man. All right, next one's going to be coming from Dior, and this is Fahrenheit Parfum. Dior Fahrenheit Parfum. Now, if you know anything about the Fahrenheit DNA, two of the main notes that are kind of centered around Fahrenheit is violet leaf and leather. Violet leaf, not necessarily considered to be a winter note, but leather certainly is. And the reason this one in particular I say is definitely really good for the winter months is a lot more warmer characteristics to this. Spiciness is actually a little less complex than the original Fahrenheit, but it's still very much here. It's gonna be the cinnamon, nutmeg kind of spice profile, so to speak. The leatheriness here is actually really well balanced, but it's not as powerful as the original Fahrenheit. But the warm notes in here, the sweetness, the vanilla is what really makes this one a great cool weather option. Also has a touch of a boozy vibe as well. But yeah, it's just warm and sweet and inviting, which is typically something you can find in a lot of fragrances that people like to associate with the cooler months. And also Fahrenheit, not necessarily known to be a slouch in terms of the performance aspect. Fahrenheit Parfum, pretty much the same way. So once again, from Dior, this is Fahrenheit Parfum. All right, this next one's gonna be coming from Jazada, and this is gonna be Ambassador Intense. Jazada, Ambassador Intense. So I was thinking of putting Dior Sauvage Elixir on the list because that is a very powerful fragrance, but I find this fragrance to be adjacent to that scent DNA. I think it took some inspiration from it, not a clone, just took some inspiration from it. And I chose to go with this one because I actually like this one a little bit better. It's just smoother. Where Dior Sauvage Elixir is very sharp and aggressive with the spice profile, this one is a smoother representation of that, and it's got a little bit more going on as well. So spice profile, cinnamon, nutmeg, mostly. Might also be some pepperiness as well. And then you've got warm, ambery woods to accompany it, and also a little bit of that lavender-like characteristic. There's also like a collection of florals in this fragrance and a little bit of a fruitiness, which the original Ambassador has a lot of a fruity character to it. This one, it's hampered down a little bit and reminds me a little bit more of Dior's Sauvage Elixir because the spiciness and the woodiness is turned up in the intense version to me. So with all of those characteristics combined, I think it makes a great winter fragrance option. And with Ambassador and this one, longevity, projection, pretty doggone good for both of them. So that's why I do consider it a powerful winter fragrance. So once again, from Jazada, this one here is Ambassador Intense. All right, we got another leather inspired fragrance for you. It's coming from Naomi Good Sir, and this is Cuir Velours. Naomi Good Sir, Cuir Velours. So this one here uses leather, obviously. Very luxurious smelling leather. Definitely puts me in the mindset of being in a fine leather shop, but also it is accompanied with an awesome booziness, a very rich and syrupy resinous characteristic. It's a little bit ambery as well, and the stuff just smells sweet and yummy and leathery. And man, it smells so good in cool weather, and it does have just enough push to it that I think it will cut through some cold weather very, very nicely. I haven't really talked about occasions with any of these fragrances, but this one's definitely a good evening wear fragrance in my opinion. For the cooler nights, you're going out somewhere nice and you want to have that leathery vibe that is likable in my opinion. Again, not necessarily for everyone, but there is a warmth and sweetness to this fragrance that offsets that leather that sometimes can be a little bit of a turn off for some people. But this is a great, boozy, rich leather fragrance that I think is a good, powerful winter fragrance option. So once again, from Naomi Good Sir, this one here is Cuir Velours. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Nishane, and this is going to be a favorite of a lot of people. This is Ani. Nishane Ani. Vanilla-based fragrance. Vanilla with spices, green notes, oddly enough. That one still kind of surprises me, but it kind of works. And really resinous characteristics as well, kind of in the warmer resinous stuff like benzoin going along with the vanilla characteristics of this scent. Had to include this one here because it was cold winter weather that actually made me like this fragrance. Before I was just kind of on the fence, and then I got to experience it in some winter weather and I was like, oh, this stuff is actually pretty doggone good in that environment. I certainly feel comfortable saying that it is a powerful winter fragrance because, as is the case with many Nishane fragrances, Ani is definitely one of those. And I only needed 3 sprays in that setting where I wore it in some winter weather to actually like it. I went pretty light with it and could smell it easily even in those cold temperatures. But the great use of the vanilla and the spices in this fragrance is what makes this one a favorite of so many fragrance enthusiasts, especially for the cooler season. But a lot of people even like to wear this when it is warmer out, and you know what? It kind of works for that too if you go lighter on the sprays. Once again from Nishane, this is Ani. All right, let's move on. We got one from Tiziana Terenzi, and this is going to be Nero Oudh. Tiziana Terenzi Nero Oudh. So this is going to be an oud rose fragrance from the house. This one does use quite a bit of saffron in the opening. I do think the saffron and the oud in this gives a little bit of a medicinal vibe, but I do think it kind of dissipates as time goes on. I also wonder what this fragrance is going to be like once it macerates a little bit more. I haven't had it for that long, but one thing is for sure, it does have a winter fragrance vibe with the way the oud and rose and saffron is used in this scent. There's other floral characteristics to accompany the rose, making it a little bit of a fruity, sweet kind of rose characteristic. There's also, I think there's some raspberry, a note of raspberry in this too, so adding to that fruitiness. And it gets a little bit smoky when it dries down. It does have a little bit of a smoky, woody aspect. One thing's for sure though, this fragrance is powerful. It will absolutely cut through some winter temperatures. Anytime I've worn this, it has been on my skin all day easily. I think this one is actually kind of a hidden favorite of a lot of people. When I started talking about it on the channel, I had a lot of people saying like, you know, they were really big fans of Nero Oudh. Not one you're necessarily going to hear about a ton from the house. Has been out a while too though, but this one here is definitely a great winter option in terms of oud and rose and saffron fragrances, which depending on how those are done, they can span every season. So once again, from Tiziana Terenzi, this is Nero Oudh. All right, and last but certainly not least, this one's coming from Whittian, and this is Liwa. Whittian Liwa. Now, first of all, just from a power standpoint, this fragrance here is ridiculously strong. This one here, saffron, very powerful saffron in the opening. Saffron, florals, not really a rose characteristic, and oud. So more of a saffron, oud, and dried woods like cedar wood and sandalwood. Very dry characteristic to this fragrance. Kind of a collection of florals. If you ever get your nose on this and you're familiar with Initio Oud for Greatness, you're gonna notice some similarities between the two. This is different. And also this one actually preceded Oud for Greatness, but that's neither here nor there. So saffron, very powerful in this. More florals, a little bit more of a fresh floral, slightly fruity vibe in this one compared to Oud for Greatness. And then that dried oud and cedar and sandalwood and like a dash of musk or something like that is pretty similar to how it is in Oud for Greatness. This one, I don't find there to be too much sweetness in this one either. As I stated before, this is a powerful fragrance. This one can absolutely cut through some winter temperature because it'll pretty much cut through anything. I mean, this is one of the strongest fragrances in my cabinet. Blows me away how strong and powerful this is. So in terms of being a powerful winter fragrance and really a DNA that certainly can work in those cooler temperatures, this one will get that job done. Once again, from Whittian, this is Liwa. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. As I mentioned halfway through the video, I think I'm going to do a part 2 to this because I've got plenty of other fragrances that would work for this subject matter. Let me know down in the comments below some of your favorite winter fragrances that you like to go to for the winter season. Would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.